What's up, people? Punch here. So it's been a while since I made another video, and I've been doing a lot of stuff with life, like working a lot, and also trying to make out videos for different games I've been wanting to play. And with Next Fest happening right now, I've been playing a lot of demos, and there's a lot of card games I definitely want to get into. But I seen the balance patch happen for Dead Grid 1.0. Adam Voigt put it out, I think it was February 21st, about 5 days ago as of this recording. And I want to talk about a couple things. I did see that he nerfed a lot of the zombie HP and even the frenzy damage for the different difficulty modes like Extinction, Apocalypse, and Veteran. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and talk about the patch notes from top to bottom as to what happened. For example, general tuning added mouse wheel support to change pages on the loot hall screen when returning to camp. Ammo drawn from Merc's bag is now directly drawn into your hand instead of the ammo stash. Added more loot selection options to the trash bin, area object at the location stash house. Slightly reduced prior training points and explosives for all tactician Mercs by a few points. Improved the new player guide for a recruit tab of gear management before locating Ramon. And reworked all Ned's assignments rewards to offer a variety of different shields, which I think I have about 3 different people done for the task, and I'm about to hit the 4th right now. Flamethrower balance. Change the spray damage to be based on remaining enemy HP instead of total HP. Reduce the total sprays from 3 to 2 with 1 additional spray on a crit for a max of 3 sprays. The sprays reduction does not affect how enemies are set on fire. Flamethrower armory points now have a chance to drop on each spray instead of each kill. Added a flame armory mod book that can show up at the start of every turn, and then it says dev notes. I've been gathering feedback on the flamethrower being overtuned for the late stages of the game. I recognize this and agree with the feedback, but also want to experiment with tuning the weapon over several patches. Flamethrowers were always designed to be used on high HP enemies, but I don't want them to be the go-to weapon as well. The patch introduces some changes that I'll continue to gather feedback for, and then continues on with more patches. In terms of the flamethrower, people need to understand that when it comes down to fire on zombies, is that once they're lit on fire, they will take over the time damage, and you can stack it. So if you keep throwing Molotovs on them or keep hitting them with flamethrowers, it'll do more and more and more damage. And the only time I would ever really use this is if you have people, or rather zombies, they were people once, on like 2700 health and above. Anything beyond that, I mean, obviously use a flamethrower for, but if it's lower than 2700, then I wouldn't really worry about using a flamethrower so much, but like using a Molotov or like blowing up somebody with a red barrel. That would also be another way to do it. Not to mention you have your own mercenaries' special abilities, like for example Hudson will throw a Molotov and hit 3 zombies in the same go. Continuing on the patch notes, they talk about aim shot balance. The base damage of aim shot is now half of the maximum damage instead of a flat 150%. This only affects ranged weapons with aim shot ability, sniper rifles, bows, and crossbows. Note, aim shot damage is increased by upgrading the weapon's item level. And what that basically means is that when you upgrade your weapon going from standard to green to blue to purple to unique, that is basically what they mean by upgrading the weapon. My question is that if I'm able to level up my mercenary and his specialization is like an SMG or an assault rifle, would that damage also add on to it? I'm not really sure. Talking about turn skill, Killzone reworked. Killzone has been reworked to no longer grant aim shot to all mercs in play. Killzone now boosts the damage of non-flamethrower ranged attacks by 15%. Cooldown has been reduced from 22 to 20 turns. Turn skill, Strike Zone. A new turn skill similar to Killzone, but grants 15% melee damage to all mercs in play. Revenant mercs gain 15% damage to each hand instead. So when a Revenant attacks, he could do 2 attacks at once, or 3 if he has bite. He'll do his left hand, his right hand, and sometimes his mouth. Now, it says 15% for each hand, but not really the mouth area, so I think that's just a normal damage, but the 2 hands will get the 15% additional for each hand, rather than just doing one whole attack like the mercenaries do. And the other thing I want to talk about is when they have a skill or special skill pop up for your mercenaries, like for example, if Hudson used Sashimi, it will come up in bold yellow lettering for that specific person instead of just going off, which is also a nice touch because it lets you know that that skill is activated and then it will happen afterwards, as you just seen right there. Also a nice touch when it comes down to this update. Survivor Jack has been reworked. Jack's damage is now based on the highest damaging range weapon of any merc in the mission squad, not just the primary merc. This was a frequent request and feedback. Also something I kind of touched on because there were times that when I used Jack, he would do about 284 damage, and then it would triple and go up to 1,000 and even higher than that. And he was able to one-shot some of the higher enemy units. Another thing to point out when it comes down to Jack is that he used to be a random event where he would pop up and shoot somebody and then he would go back into whatever, the ether. Now he's an actual card, and you could use him multiple times if you have enough times to use him. I think his max is about 30, and then once 30 is done, he's gone for good. He doesn't come back until the next mission. So having him do that multiple times as long as you have the action points to use him is also a better touch than what he used to be, which was hoping and praying that eventually he gets a critical shot and kills one of the higher end zombies. The other thing they did when it comes down to Jack is increase Jack's starting accuracy from 70% to 85%, further boosted by 2% per intel. Increase Jack's damage boost per intel for plus 5% to 10%. And the last thing was flamethrowers are still excluded from Jack's damage pool. Gadget Walkie-Talkie reworked. Completely reworked the mechanic of the Walkie-Talkie gadget and its unique variants. Walkie-Talkie now grants a chance to spawn every merc in mission squad until combat on turn 1 of the first encounter. The gadget can be equipped on any merc in mission squad, and the chance stacks multiple walkie-talkies. Combat log reflects the total stack chance in which merc was able to arrive early using the mechanic. Accessory Precision Helm new. Chance to retain aim shot after scoring a crit with an aim shot. Precision Helm comes in 5 conditions and colors, meaning that they're just different tiers, like, as I said earlier, degraded, common, green, blue, purple, and unique. Accessory, large backpack rebalance. Double the trigger chance of copying drawn consumables from bag. Degraded backpack now starts with 10% instead of 5% and can be upgraded to a 60% chance. Merc in-card status effects. Added new in-card status effects for mercs performing special actions, similar to Frag Out. The new effects are Frag Stash, Molotov, Explosive, Smoke, Sashimi, Execute, Shield Taunt, and more. I will potentially expand it further in future patches, meaning that basically what I said earlier when it comes down to the yellow lettering, when it pops up with a special effect, that's what it is. So if you see like a Sashimi or Execute pop up, then it will have the bold yellow lettering before it goes off. One last thing that happened with this update, which was the enemy hit point scaling. Adam Void says, I've been paying very close attention to the feedback of enemy scaling in the later stages of the game. Many players have reported the early game feels a lot smoother, especially on the harder difficulty modes. The enemy scaling on the second half of the region was definitely overtuned for the 1.0 launch. Therefore, I've made some changes to make the harder missions more lucrative to repeat. This patch introduces a new power curve of enemy hit point scaling affecting the mid to late stages of the game. The goal is to reduce the aggressive rise in hit points while making non-burn damage and non-flamethrower weapons more viable. Mid-game starts around rank 20 enemies, which is typically at the hospital. The early game should stay unaffected. Here are some examples of the new enemy HP numbers. For example, and I'm not going to read all of them, normal has enemy rank 29, old skill HP 406, down to 391. While enemy rank 94 old scale HP was 3,102, its new scale is 2,038. But let's talk about the Apocalypse and Extinction, because these numbers are pretty high in comparison to normal. For example, the Apocalypse level 93 old scale, which was 11,955, is now 2,286. And then they have Extinction, which was rank 30, 1972, is now 1528. While enemy rank 93 old skill HP 31,391 is new skill HP is 2,625. So that's kind of a leap down from what it was. Then they talk about the enemy damage balance, and he goes on to say, with the new hit point curve, I've also included a balance change to enemy damage, especially for harder difficulty modes. Once again, the change starts to be more apparent mid-game with rank 20 plus enemies at the hospital. The other reason for this damage balance is to also put more focus on using consumables, upgraded shields, and the use of threat management. Many players run 500 plus durability shields, where enemies dealing 10 damage per swing pose very little threat. Here are some examples. Normal is enemy rank 12, old damage is 5, new damage is 5, no change. But the enemy rank 93, which was old damage 7, is now 9, so plus 2. Veteran was 7, and the old damage is 3, now it's 4. And then the enemy rank 88 is old damage 8, now it's 12. With Extinction, it goes from the enemy rank 8 old damage to 2 up to 6, and the highest, which was 93, old damage 10 to 20. And then he talks about some general bug fixes. But that's all I got right now when it comes down to the Dead Grid 1.0 balance patch. I'll put the rest or anything else that's left for the patch notes in the description down below. I've been One Nut Punch, and this has been the balance patch for Dead Grid. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.